Jim Baxter. No statue at Wembley, no chant in the England stands, but on April 15th, 1967, he made 100,000 people go quiet. Wembley, Scotland versus England. World champions. 19 games unbeaten. Moore, Charlton, Hurst, Peters, until Baxter got the ball. Second half. Scotland leading 3-1. He walked into the corner and juggled it. Left foot, right foot, thigh, head, again and again. Bobby Moore didn't foul him, didn't even close him down, he just watched. He didn't just beat us, Moore later said, he toyed with us. There was no need for noise, because Baxter was the noise. He wasn't killing time, he was freezing it. Scotland won 3-2. But the result didn't matter. That moment did. No medal, no golden boot, just a man juggling a football and the world standing still. Denis Law called it the day we became giants. And every Scot who saw it still remembers how it felt. Subscribe, because if this is your first time hearing about that day, you won't forget it now. Hill of Beath, Fife Coal Country, born September 29th, 1939. Same year the war began. His father worked the pits. Jim was expected to follow, but the only thing he ever dug into was a football. He didn't run, didn't chase, didn't scrap. He walked, with a left foot that made grown men stop. Raith Rovers signed him at 17. No one expected much. Too skinny, too slow, too smug, they said. But the ball stayed with him, like it knew who it belonged to. 3 years later, Rangers. £17,500. A Scottish record. A boy from the mines wearing royal blue. He didn't look like a footballer, didn't train like one either. But on the first touch at Ibrox, you could hear the air change. He wasn't just playing, he was rearranging the game. On pitches where tackles drew blood, Baxter's touch stayed untouchable. He didn't fight the chaos, he made it move around him. He wasn't part of the machine, he was the switch. From coal dust to floodlights, Scotland had never seen anything like him. 1960 to 1965. Rangers ruled. Because Baxter did. 3 league titles, 3 Scottish Cups, 4 League Cups. All with Slim Jim at the centre. Willie Henderson, who shared that pitch, once said, "Jim was the best I ever played with." Scot Symon called him a genius with the ball. He didn't boss games, he bent them. Every pass felt like a dare. Every touch slowed the clock. In an era with no substitutions, where studs flew and knees snapped, he made it look like ballet. Heavy balls, no shin pads yet. Jim's touch was silk. He didn't train much, didn't care for diets or drills, but when match day came, he lit up Ibrox like floodlights. He didn't sprint, didn't slide, didn't roar. He glided, he grinned, and the ball obeyed. Managers screamed at defenders, "Get tight, stay close." They couldn't. He didn't move fast. He made others move slow. He played 1-2s with shadows, passed into space that wasn't there. Until it was. Rangers weren't just dominant, they were elegant, because of one man. In boots caked with mud, he made the ball whisper. Slim Jim didn't fit the league. He changed it. He'd humbled England before. 1-0 in 1963. He'd stunned Austria 4-3 in 60, he'd dazzled Spain 6-2 in 63, but 1967. That was different. April 15th, Wembley, Scotland versus England, the world champions, Moore, Charlton, Hurst, unbeaten in 19 games, arrogant, confident, ready, until Slim Jim got the ball. Scotland were up 3-1, but Baxter wasn't done. He walked into the corner and juggled it, left foot, right foot, thigh, head, again and again. No time wasting, no panic, just poetry. Bobby Moore stood there, didn't tackle, didn't lunge, just watched. He didn't just beat us, Moore said, he toyed with us. Even Charlton didn't foul, no one wanted to break the spell. The game ended 3-2, but the score vanished, because that moment became bigger than the match. The taunt, the touch, the grin. Denis Law said, "Jim made us feel like giants." He didn't lift a trophy, didn't wear a medal. But that day, Scotland walked like kings, and Baxter walked off without a scratch. 1965. He left Rangers, crossed the border. Sunderland paid £72,500, a British record, the price of a genius. But the spark didn't travel. He still had moments, a glide, a pass, a ghost of what he'd been. But something had shifted. Knee injuries slowed him, and the bottle took over. The crowd still clapped, but quieter. The game still came to him, but less often. He moved to Nottingham Forest. 62 games, 2 goals, and barely a ripple. He wasn't ridiculed, wasn't disgraced, just less. The flair was fading, the grin was dimming, the joy was leaking. No scandal, no explosion, just a slow, invisible slide. He was only 27, still gifted, still capable, but it didn't matter, because the magic wasn't about what he could do. It was about what he made you feel. And now, that feeling was gone. Slim Jim didn't break, he dimmed, and when the shine faded, so did the noise. 1969. He went back to Rangers, not as the king, not as the conductor, but as a hope. 14 games, no goals, no magic, no moment. The fans waited, held their breath, watched every touch, but the music never returned. He looked slower, not physically, spiritually. He wasn't dodging tackles, he was dodging expectation. The crowd still loved him, still sang his name, but it felt like memory, not momentum. And then, in 1970, he walked away. No press conference, no testimonial, no send-off. Just a quiet end for the man who once made Wembley freeze. He retired at 30, not because he had to, but because he couldn't pretend anymore. He'd made the game look easy. Now it looked like work. And Jim Baxter didn't play football to work. He played it to live. When that stopped, so did he. He left football early, but it never really left him. The drink stayed, even when the roar didn't, even when the cameras stopped turning. He laughed it off for years, said he'd earned it, but his body disagreed. Liver cirrhosis, young, before most knew what that word meant. He lost the money, then the photos, then the memories. One day he sold his Wembley '67 shirt, the same one he wore when he humiliated England, to pay bills, to stay afloat, to stay alive. It broke fans, because it felt like history was being auctioned off by the man who made it. He didn't complain, didn't beg for pity, didn't ask for help. He kept to himself, turned down interviews, stayed out of sight. But when he smiled, people still saw it. The ghost of that grin, the echo of that pass. He knew what he'd done, he knew what it cost, and he carried it. Not with shame, but with silence. April 14th, 2001. Jim Baxter died of pancreatic cancer. Age 61. No grand send-off, no slow walk to the pitch, no final whistle, just silence. Months later, bronze. A tribute long in the works, not just a reaction. A statue rose at Ibrox. Slim Jim, frozen in stride, left foot forward, eyes up, ball resting at his feet. They made him immortal, but he never saw it. The crowds came, scarves tied to railings, beer poured, tears held back. But the man who changed Scottish football was already gone. Some said the statue was overdue. Others said he wouldn't have cared. Maybe both were right, because Baxter never asked for legacy. He just asked for the ball. The real monument wasn't in metal. It was in the pubs, the memories, the grins when Wembley '67 came up again. Ask the old guard in Govan, they'll tell you. The statue's fine. But the moment, that never needed building. He didn't lift the World Cup, didn't chase records, didn't care for stats. But he left something deeper. 34 Scotland caps, 3 goals, 3 league titles. A legacy made not from numbers, but from silence. Because when Baxter had the ball, you didn't breathe. You just watched. He didn't beat teams. He rewrote them. Not with power, with pause. He wasn't Best, wasn't Cruyff, wasn't Law. He was Baxter. And that was enough. Players like Gascoigne carried his torch. Genius with a grin, flawed, joyous, human. He didn't need plaques, but they gave them. Scotland's Hall of Fame, Rangers. The statue outside Ibrox, Scottish Football Hall of Fame. 2003 sealed his mark, 5 streets bear his name like scars of pride. Still, that's not where he lives. He lives in clips, in debates, in the corner of a pub, where one fan swears, "I saw his last Ibrox pass it bent time." And another leans in, "Aye, but did you ever see Baxter juggle it at Wembley?" That's his crown, and he wears it in memory. Subscribe because some players win matches. Slim Jim one time.